Hello, in today's video, I wanted to really help digest what the 8 basic emotions are, in addition to what it is they mean and or symbolize. I constantly am going into inter-conflict resolution and or just the education around emotions are not positive or negative. They're not good or bad. What they are comfortable and uncomfortable emotions. And the thing that's going to differentiate whether it is a comfortable or uncomfortable emotion is based off of 2 things. One, your understanding of what it actually means and what it is symbolizing and articulating about your mental and emotional experience within a certain situation. The second thing that really differentiates whether an emotion is a comfortable or uncomfortable is the familiarity of actually allowing yourself to experience that emotion. So I think I've talked about it before, but maybe not in this platform, around jealousy. Jealousy is one of those emotions that we feel is like a bad quality or a negative connotation. But really, jealousy, when someone is jealous, it is their internal experience processing and feeling and believing and thinking. It's under the association, like it is like the red lights are flaring and going off because it is literally under the impression that you're going to lose someone you love. So for people who then are more understanding, empathetic, and articulate, they are able to understand, okay, wow, what I am actually experiencing and feeling is that I'm going to lose the person I love. What can I ask, say, or request to allow that feeling to not exist? Like to really kind of collect data that reassures that what I'm experiencing is not true. Because again, unless we then are able to recognize, understand, label, express, and regulate, if you do not express it and articulate it, especially if someone else is impacting you or creating it, then you cannot expect yourself to be able to resolve the emotion and its impact and experience that it's having on you and or your relationship, situation, or circumstance. But it also doesn't allow the other person to do what he or she needs to do, or they need to do, in order to help secure and validate the understanding and the reassurance that you need in order to still remain connected, understanding, respectful, and just understood. So I'm going to share my screen. There are 8 basic emotions that I feel anyone over the age of 5 should really, really get clear on. We have anger. Anger is something that allows us and keeps us clear on checking in of injustice. It is to fight against problems. So when you are angry, your internal experience is that there is some sort of injustice. We have fear because it protects us from danger. That's not to think that like, okay, and the problem is danger, fear, our bodies, our nervous and our sympathetic and parasympathetic systems do not know whether danger is a lion chasing you or a day that you have been nonstop in meetings and you have a boss that's requesting too much, or a partner that is demanding too much of your attention that you feel that you're unable to create and provide at this time. So really understanding that fear is, okay, it's to protect me, but it also symbolizes false evidence appearing real. So what is it that you need to do to then, collect, solidify, and validate whether or not something is really creating and having you need to be in a space of like fearing and danger for your life. Anticipation, to look forward and plan. Anticipation is a very interesting emotion because it is the segue into excitement and or anxiety. When people are unaware to understand, am I experiencing anticipation? Am I experiencing excitement? It can often be misinterpreted as anxiety. And that then causes a lot of misjudgments, misidentifications, excuses for, either doing something that's maybe disrespectful or misunderstanding, and or an excuse to not do something because you're identifying with not being able to handle it, do it, or regulate through it. Surprise, to focus on a new situation. Surprise is, again, one of those as well. It has that higher vibration, that energy that can be really uncomfortable. For me personally, I hate surprises. And it's because two things. One, I don't like not feeling in control and being able to regulate and know that I'm going to be able to show up and navigate through something in the way that I want to, as well as I put a lot of pressure on myself to act and react a certain way or respond a certain way so that someone else isn't negatively impacted by my lack of enthusiasm or my lack of just like gracious generosity, that there is a surprise. So there's that just being who you are, whether it's introvert, extrovert, someone who is type A versus type B, like different emotions are experienced and bring up different things within different people. And it's important to know that about yourself, especially, so then you can communicate it. It's not that like I cannot get through a surprise without a meltdown and or not be truly genuinely sincere, but it's important for me to know that like I do not express true excitement and or surprise and awe in the stereotypical way that you see in the movies and like read about and would imagine someone. And it's not because I'm not, it's just because there's an internal conflict that sometimes it's very uncomfortable for me. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to be a certain way, which then also then hinders the actual like response or just overall, what would you say? Just my way in like acting it out or body language or reaction. I don't like the word reaction. I like to respond versus react, but it is like your physical, mental, and emotional like reaction of enthusiasm. Joy, I know I've said it here and I'm going to say it again. Joy reminds us what's important. It is the most vulnerable emotion to experience. It's something we do not allow ourselves to experience often because you are completely surrendering in the moment and just embodying the now. And it's blissful, it's serene, and it's intoxicating. And the reason we don't allow ourselves to feel it is because it's very, very temporary, and no one likes to grieve the loss of something that feels so good. Sadness, to connect us with those we love, to really what is important. It allows us to reminisce the goodness that we get from animals, people, experiences, places. Sadness is not a bad emotion. It's a blessing that allows us to connect to what it is we actually like love and truly connect with. Trust is to connect people with who help. It is very hard to come from a space of understanding and respect if you do not trust someone. And in my opinion, trust is one of those things that it needs to be and it gets to be earned, because the worst thing you can do is go into something with giving someone the benefit of the doubt with unrealistic expectations and then be hurt, disrespected, let down because you have an unmet silent expectation, when really, in order to trust someone, there is that understanding, that empathy, that articulation, that expression that has to go with it in order to embody trust. The most important person you should learn to trust and build trusting is yourself in and of effect. And then the last one is disgust. To reject what is unhealthy. Disgust, again, people may think, oh, dang, that's a negative emotion or that's a bad emotion. Not necessarily. It is a check-in for what is not in alignment to what your values, moral and ethical codes are. If someone is doing something like smoking, I think smoking is absolutely disgusting. And the reason it is so disgusting to me is because my core value is health. I thrive on it. I don't think there's one positive or attractive quality that smoking brings something. So the fact for me to be discussed, it is a way of me being so clear on what is healthy, what is moral and ethically sound from a space of integrity to me. And therefore I reject that concept because it is unhealthy. It's the same thing if you see someone who is being continuously staying in an unhealthy or abusive relationship. You would be disgusted with that person or that relationship dynamic because it is unhealthy in your eyes. It's against what you believe. So those are the 8 basic emotions. I would love to hear where you're at, how you feel, what emotion you more often feel than the other. Are you able to recognize, understand, label, express, and regulate? If not, I would love to have a conversation. But more importantly, just check in. How are emotions and your ability to either, one, know what they're telling you and know what they mean and how they're coming from, where they're coming from, and B, the understanding and articulation of letting yourself feel them so they become familiar. There is no such thing as good and bad emotions. There is no such thing as positive and negative emotions. Emotions are emotions. It's a matter of, are they comfortable or uncomfortable? And the ones that are uncomfortable, I actually encourage you to dive into more, allow yourself to experience them, put yourselves in situations so you get to go through that label, understand, or label, express, and regulate component. Because without that, your emotional bandwidth is only going to stay in one area. And that's not necessarily healthy either. Okay? Ciao.